Um,
Michael,
uh,
Michael, the
yeah.
one thing I'm fascinated by this story is the fact that the new king, Frederik, his wife is Australian, and then they met in a pub, and she had no idea who he was. And they've been together a good few years now, got a couple of children. Can you tell us more about him? What's he like?
Well, he is a very affable young man. As you say, I mean, if you're going to Australia, you meet somebody in a pub, don't you? That's the place where everything happens. And he's very popular too. Had a little bit of a brush with scandal. He was photographed standing a bit too close to a rather glamorous-looking woman in Spain. But these things get passed over, and the marriage is solid. And there you are, the whole family together. And they're a very united lot. And the Danes feel very, very strongly towards their royal family. It's a different sort of setup we have here, a little bit more intimate, shall we say, a little bit less pomp and circumstance, as we've been declared today. And what was interesting is that instead of a full-blown coronation, it was a declaration, a proclamation indeed, by the Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, and she, the Prime Minister, didn't start out in life as a big fan of the monarchy, but when she met Queen Margrethe, she changed her mind and she became very enthusiastic about the role of the Danish monarch within the constitution there. It's something which I think they can all be proud of, because whenever there is a survey of how people feel about the country they're in and their own lives, Denmark almost always comes top. I think we're probably down in the low teens or something like that. But it is a very happy country, and if you've ever had the privilege of going there, I think it's a joyous place, not just in Tivoli Gardens, which is perhaps one of the original fun fairs that there's ever been, with a great deal of charm, but everywhere you go. And of course, Danish beer, Danish bacon, we love it all, and Danish butter. And they are very close to us because we were, and to some extent still are, their major market for their food products.
Michael,
and we...
Michael, sorry, lovely. Obviously, we're watching them on the balcony. They're lovely scenes there, and I'm surprised at how many people are there. The crowds were really impressive. But, oh, look!
My goodness! Oh, my goodness! Isn't that nice to see? I think that's...
We all like a balcony kid.
They didn't need any coaching, did they, Dawn? They were ready for that.
No, they didn't know that. That wasn't love. What is love? Yes, absolutely. No, so,
I think you say, what's his personality, Dawn? You see it there. Look, he's convivial, he's friendly, very down to earth, and he's got, his father was a Frenchman, a French diplomat, I mentioned, and it all started in the Harrods Banking Hall many, many years ago, or else he wouldn't be there today on that balcony. What I haven't heard is that most of the monarchs come out with a motto when they speak, first of all. They have something to actually characterize their reign. I'd like to know what his motto is. He's now going off to have a reception of invited guests, and there'll be a little bit of ceremonial afterwards. Interestingly, his mother, Queen Margrethe, although she has stepped down, signed this instrument of declaration of abdication, she still will, on occasions, act as regent when he's out of the country, because the king is also the king of the Faroe Islands to the north of us, and the king of Greenland, which is one of the biggest islands on Earth and very important strategically, with many American bases and others there. Great pictures, did you think?
Sorry, Michael. We're running out of time.
I just said they were great pictures.
They are lovely pictures. They're very lovely. And if you're listening on the radio, we just saw a very romantic and spontaneous kiss with the new king and queen on the balcony. And who doesn't like a nice love story on a Sunday? And so what is... I mean, I'm still fascinated by this commoner, this Australian bird, bumping into him in a pub. What was her relationship like with Queen Marguerite? I mean, was there any element of snobbery in it? You get the impression there wasn't.
No, not at all, not at all. She was very welcomed by the Queen who's just stepped down, Margrethe, welcomed into the family very warmly, and the relationship has been very good. And the Danes are very down-to-earth people. There's nothing stuck up or snobby about them. There you see the Queen who's just left us, and her eldest son, who's now the king, on her right. No, they were very welcomed, and it's also ties that bind. You know, the Australians are very proud of Queen Mary. I'm not sure whether that's a terribly good name, because whenever you hear Queen Mary, you think of the ship, don't you?
Yes.
But anyway, there we have Queen Mary, and there we have Princess of Wales with the Queen who's just left us, and with the Queen Mary, the lady in the white coat, rather elegantly dressed. And there's a lot of comparison being made between the new Danish Queen, Queen Mary, and of course if things go according to plan, the next Queen of this country, who will be the Princess of Wales.
They do look very alike, don't they, Michael, the two women?
Well, I think the picture editors in certain newspapers will be making that point to some extent, and seeing who's picking up fashion tips from each other. But the two families are very close. They always have been. There have been these ties that bind. They all descend from Queen Victoria, who, of course, was famously the grandmother of Europe. She had descendants of herself in all the royal houses. But our connections with Denmark through the sea and through our love of beer, and of course ancestrally, because the Danish came over here ad lib during the Dark Ages and popularized this country. Who knows, Dawn? You and I might be descended from these Vikings who arrived on the East Coast in their longboats. And came and perhaps terrorised us at first, but then settled down and fitted in.
Well, Michael, I do have a love of beer, so anything's possible. Thank you so much, Michael Cole, royal expert, for joining us there, talking about our the new king in Denmark.